Joining us now is Tom Steyer, co-founder of Galvanize Climate Solutions. Tom, great to have you back. Thank you so much for being with us. What are you hoping to hear from Harris's campaign, given that we haven't heard so much in terms of how she differs from President Biden?
Well, what I'm expecting to hear, Lisa, and hoping to hear, is that her agenda around the economy is going to be about opportunity. That in fact she understands that America is the land of opportunity and it gives everyone a chance to do the most. And that is exactly what drives this economy, what makes our capitalistic economy so strong. At the same time that I expect her to continue most of the policies of the Biden-Harris administration.
So she will continue on this electrifying the grid. What more do you expect if she were to win that they can add on to what Biden did when it comes to the Inflation Reduction Act?
Well, I think to a large extent it is going to be about implementing the Inflation Reduction Act, which is really two things. It's not just about the grid. It's about deploying the existing technologies, wind, solar, batteries, EVs, but it's also about innovating and creating the next generation of energy-related companies and technologies. So that second part is absolutely critical. We're seeing deployment happen spurred by the IRA, but very much driven by private money. What we need to see is new companies solving some of the problems around energy in ways that work for consumers and companies.
But when it comes to that competition, and if you think climate is existential, why not let the cheap Chinese EVs into the United States? How does Democratic Party square that?
Here's my answer for you. Look, I am a huge believer in trade. I believe that the benefits, the dispersed benefits to American consumers of trade are huge and important, and we've all enjoyed them for a long time, and it's theoretically true too. What is true is that the Chinese economy is doing something strange. They are leading the manufacturing of almost every clean energy product: wind turbines, solar arrays, batteries, EVs. But what's also true is they're by far the biggest polluter in terms of carbon emissions. And they're using their carbon emissions to try and drive their economic program of leading this energy transition to pull their very weak economy out of the ditch. So in fact, the idea that they should be charged for their emissions that are about a third of global emissions makes very good sense to me. And we're doing it in a not direct way, but it's actually a way that turns out to be pretty fair.
The other big issue, not just national security when it comes to China, but the other big political issue in the election is who's going to win the union vote. How does Kamala Harris strike that tone with the fact that they want to see more EVs on the road, but actually this unnerves a lot of rank and file of those labor unions in places like Michigan, which is critical to Democrats maintaining the White House?
Absolutely, but let's take a step back if we could, Annmarie, which is this. We've all listened to Elon Musk and Donald Trump talk about their attitude towards organized labor and labor unions. In fact, they've been sued over what they said on Twitter. So the truth is, it's not a choice between Kamala, who is a very strong union person, and a blank person. It's someone who clearly is anti-union and anti-working person. And that's been a long history over decades of where Mr. Trump has gone and where he's likely to go. So yes, it's absolutely clear that Michigan, obviously the UAW, has a huge sway in Michigan, and they're a really important part of the Democratic coalition. But the truth is that the person who supports working people and who supports organized labor is definitely Kamala Harris, and to go any other way is to ignore the facts of this week, let alone the last 2 decades.
And Tom, you're painting quite a dichotomy between the two candidates. And I just wonder, in your conversations with not just investors, but portfolio companies that want to do clean technology, if there's a sense that they're holding back on investing because of the uncertainty of the race, and they might continue to do so if it is a Trump presidency.
Well, I think when we talk about the possibility of a Trump presidency, let's break it down into two things. One is what's going to happen in the United States of America. And I think that to a very large extent, when it comes to the deployment of the existing technologies, they're just cheaper. If you look around the world last year, so 2023, of new electricity generation, 86% of it was renewable. They're not doing that to be nice. They're doing it because it's a cheaper, better deal. And those lines have crossed, and there's nothing that Mr. Trump can do to change the economic forces. What is really important from the standpoint of addressing the climate crisis more broadly is this. This is obviously a global issue. It requires global cooperation and American leadership. That is something that a Trump administration will never do. I mean, they famously withdrew from the Paris Accords. He's talking about getting out of NATO, let alone cooperating with the UN efforts around climate. So from the standpoint of the American economy, we're going to continue to deploy. I think that's baked in the cake just because it's a better deal. Texas has tripled its solar since 2018. And that's the state where they love to say how bad renewables are. But they're a bigger wind producer and solar producer than California.
Tom, we just have about 30 seconds. Do you think that Musk's friendship with Donald Trump will ensure that there will be a friendly environment for electric vehicles even if Trump gets into the office?
No. I think that Mr. Trump doesn't really have policies and he doesn't have friendships. So whatever he said this week, that's something that'll change over time because they don't even have a platform. They literally don't have a platform because they don't have policies. They just have instincts, urges, and vengeance.
Tom Steyer of Galvanize Climate Solutions, we really appreciate you coming in as always. Thank you for being here.